Hello lads, lassies, and those of unspecified gender, it's the Irishman here, and today we're going to be talking about what would have happened if Goku was the reincarnation of Zalama. This is the fourth part to this what if, as well as the fifth video in this series. If you haven't seen the other four videos, I would greatly recommend you at least check out parts 1 through 3, that way you are prepared to watch this video spoiler free. There will be a playlist linked in the description for your viewing convenience, and now with all of that out of the way, let's get into the story of this what if. Goku and Tien stand atop the lookout, looking down upon the rest of the world, both with equally different perspectives. Goku sees billions of new people to meet, thousands of different places to explore, and as many adventures as can ever be formed to go on. So he, of course, has a more optimistic look on things, whereas Tien is somewhat different. He sees a world that has been corrupted by evil, a place that allows things like the Crane School to exist and function as they were. He wants to make sure that that kind of evil isn't allowed to remain on Earth. And this is sort of the same thing Kami is undergoing at the moment, a transformation to see the world through a different lens, and be more active in it to protect those who can't protect themselves. Speaking of Kami-sama, he would currently be in Otherworld, talking with King Yama and attempting to convince him to allow Goku to traverse Snake Way, even though he is currently still alive. This is a hard sell, but King Yama is willing to make an exception to his rule this one time, allowing the living to reside in the land of the dead, just so that Goku can get some training with King Kai. He decides that it should be fine as long as Goku doesn't fall into hell or somehow get into heaven, as even Kami's favor cannot get him out of that pickle. As long as he just goes across Snake Way and goes to King Kai, trains under him, and then goes back to Earth, lickety-split, then there shouldn't be a problem. So Kami thanks him profusely and heads back to Earth. Once Kami first arrives back on the lookout, he would tell Goku everything that he'll have to endure if he actually wants to train with King Kai, as it's not as simple as just teleporting over to the land of the Kai. He has to first travel across Snake Way, a place that is so infinitely long it will take him months. Although Goku does still persist, saying that this is what he wants and verifying to Kami that he is willing to take this journey. So the Elder Guardian, although a bit reluctant, decides to bring Goku along. It is, after all, Goku's decision, not Kami's. So he teleports him to Otherworld and points him in the direction of Snake Way, where Goku then heads off on his journey. Once Goku begins his journey, it would take him a while, and I do mean a while, but he is eventually able to overcome the hurdle that is Snake Way. The reason it would take him this long, even though he is much faster and stronger than in the original, is because he isn't dead. He does still have to eat, sleep, and drink, which would be pretty hard to do considering there isn't much food or water in Otherworld. Although finding a couple of shops as well as a palace containing a snake lady along the way, he is able to stay alive long enough to eventually reach King Kai's planet, where the Kai himself has enough food and water to last multiple lifetimes. And it's good food and drink too, not any sloppy stuff from Princess Sloppy Snake. After a powerful jump up, Goku would land on King Kai's planet, and the gravity is immediately apparent to him. Although it's not too much of a problem, really. He's already spent a couple of months inside of the Time Chamber, a place with equal gravity to that of King Kai's very world. So even though it is hard for him to sustain himself in, it isn't too bad. He's able to handle it with relative ease, even if a bit difficult. But the problem here for him would really be learning Kaioken, as it is a move that tears your body apart, and he doesn't have the cheat code of being dead to rely on. If he breaks his body in any real way, it will take him a while to recover. So Kaioken is a move that he has to use sparingly, even when learning it. But he is eventually able to master the first few layers of it, using Kaioken times 1 and 2 relatively easily, although 3, 4, and even 5 are very, very difficult for him, so he has to kind of pace himself whenever he's using it. And to be fair, he's not going to be using it all that much in any real fights, seeing as he has the Ikari form, a 10 times multiplier with very little drawback, whereas the Kaioken is a lower multiplier with a lot of drawback. But remember how I said Goku has magical abilities, such as healing himself? Well, yeah, that's going to be very, very useful whenever he uses Kaioken. It not only means that the time it takes for him to recover after using the technique is drastically lowered, but it also means he can begin healing himself while utilizing the body-tearing move. So Kaioken is a lot easier for him to use than basically anybody else, even the likes of Piccolo, seeing as Piccolo's kind of regeneration takes a lot out of you, at least stamina-wise. Even if you're able to regrow an arm, you're not going to be able to fight very easily after that. So, with his healing abilities as well as prodigy nature, Goku would be able to master the Kaioken to higher levels, eventually being able to utilize times 10 to 15 with relative ease, although stressing himself out if he goes any higher, since although his magical abilities are incredibly powerful, they wouldn't be able to counteract the strain of higher levels of Kaioken than around times 15. He would be incredibly powerful, but not as strong as you might think. His base power level would probably be around 7 to 8,000, although his forms are really where he gets most of his strength. He can use the Ikari form to boost his power by 10 times, and if he needs to, he can stack Kaioken up to times 3 on top of it, although that is incredibly straining, even with the boost of magical power he gets from the Ikari form. Yes, it doesn't just boost his physical abilities, it boosts all of his powers, magic included. Now, you might think that that means he's able to heal himself 10 times as much, and even though that is technically true, healing himself would take a lot of stamina. Not a whole ton when he is in his base form and the injuries he sustained aren't too high, but when he's in the Ikari form, maxing out his power level with Kaioken, that does put a heavy strain on his body, seeing as Kaioken amplifies your own power. It doesn't give you a set boost, and thus the stronger you are, the more strain on your body, unless you master that technique to compensate for the power. So Goku's healing would take a lot out of him, while he is also focusing on Kaioken and the Ikari form. And remember how much focus Kaioken takes. Stacking the Ikari form and healing on top of that would probably ruin that focus, so he isn't able to heal himself as much, if at all, while using Ikari and Kaioken. Although after 3 years pass, Goku would return to Earth, where he would enter the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. Although he would restrict himself from using any of his transformations, he doesn't want to make it unfair for all of his friends, who, as of now, do not have any sort of power-boosting techniques. Except for Roshi, who has the buff-up form, but he would be entering as Jackie Chun, not Roshi. Now, on the way to the tournament, Goku and Kami would complement each other on their equally new appearances. Goku is older, stronger, smarter, and more refined, as well as taller, while Kami is stronger, more youthful, as well as much bulkier. This is strange, for Kami at least, as Goku was naturally going to get a growth spurt as well as be more buffed out. But for Kami, this was very unnatural. Goku has never seen this sort of thing happen before, and that's because this is the first time, at least in this scenario, that someone has wished for eternal youth on the Dragon Balls. Yes, you heard me right. Kami is wishing for his youth here, because he realizes with his more direct approach to being the Guardian of Earth, it would only make sense to make sure that he has a more capable body for that sort of job. But it also means that he's going to have more fun at these tournaments, which is an added bonus, but still one that is somewhat vital to him, as he wants to connect more with Earth's culture. Now, getting into the actual tournament, things would be pretty interesting, seeing as Tien trained under Kami, and once the two became pretty relative, they started training together, especially once Kami wished for eternal youth the training was incredibly effective. Tien grew to a power level around 2.5k, where Kami is around 3k, which might not be incredibly impressive since Goku is probably triple the strength of Kami, but when having incredibly weighted gear, which Kami would now be able to make with relative ease, his magical powers being boosted from his youth being granted, Goku would be on an even playing field with the two of them. Unless he uses transformations, but like I said, he's excluding himself from doing that. First would be a rematch between Goku and Tien, wherein Tien would fare much better against Goku, even though he knows that Goku is wearing the weights, to which eventually he actually asks that Goku takes them off, remove them and show him his full power. Even if it means that he gets mollywomped, he still wants to be able to contest against Goku's incredible might. So, Goku, understanding this sort of request, being in the same boat a couple of times with other opponents, especially his grandpa Gohan in his early years, as well as Kami, he takes off his weights and then enters the Akari form. This is more than Tien could have ever expected. It's a power level that is damn near Ginyu Force level. Yet, he doesn't know that, it's still incredibly impressive and insanely intense. Yet Tien still perseveres. He pushes forward and breaks his limits. Now, I don't want to mention power levels so much because they ruin the entire point of a fight, but Tien would break forth into another realm. Not that he gains God Ki or anything, but rather, he increases his power far beyond anything he could have expected of himself. He gets stronger and then uses a Kiko Ho, a power boosting technique that pulls everything out of you. And after landing Goku on the ground, far beneath Earth's surface, Goku is impressed, as well as slightly damaged. He got actually seriously hurt from that. Not to the point where he can't recover, of course he does still have his healing, but it was incredibly impressive from Tien. So Goku rises out of the rubble and decides that it wasn't fair to hold anything back. He wasn't expecting Tien to be able to do something like that, but now that he knows he can, he's not going to hold even a little bit of his power behind him, as he then powers up into Kaioken times 5 on top of the Akari form, showing Tien what his true max is. And this is insane. He could have never expected this sort of power. It's unlike anything he's ever seen. It's the equivalent to Goku going Super Saiyan. But then, before he can even comprehend what's happening faster than his 3 eyes can see, Tien is landed face first in the grassy part of the arena, disqualified and out of the running, although more than happy with how he contested against Goku's seemingly unbreakable wall of power. Now, on the other side of this incredibly interesting coin would be Roshi versus Kami, as this is a fight that should have happened in the original, but not in this setting. Rather, Roshi should have trained under Kami, yet he didn't know he could. He didn't know there was anything higher than Korin. Yet now he's coming face to face with a person that he should have already had as a teacher prior, yet never did. And he does surprisingly well. Kami's training pushed him into an entire other league than the Turtle Hermit. Yet here, thanks to his training with Krillin, who is ever desperate to catch up to his best friend Goku, he's able to stay somewhat on even footing with the Guardian. This impresses everybody there, especially himself, Roshi, but he isn't able to stay up with par for the Guardian for that long. Of course, Kami would be giving it his all, but eventually Roshi just can't keep up. His stamina depletes because he isn't too used to still using his buff form as often, so he's knocked out, but he gave one hell of a fight, and is newly invigorated to enter this new realm of power that his students have been able to get into, as well as somebody that he desperately wants to train under. Although, he might have to go back to Korin first, as he has proven to not be worthy of the god's time. This would be a belief that Roshi would state out loud, to which Kami would tell him that if the Guardian had never wished for eternal youth, then he never would have been able to beat Roshi. The training that the Turtle Hermit did was intense and amazing. If he keeps up with what he was doing, then not even Kami would be able to stand a chance. Although the next person up to fight would probably still be able to. that being Roshi's greatest student, son Goku, versus the master that Roshi should have trained under, Kami. Kami cracks his neck, then his knuckles, and gets into a stance, one that Goku is unfamiliar with. Then, suddenly Kami starts praying, as if there's some god above him he's seeking some sort of aid from. Goku thinks he might be trying to talk with King Kai, but then suddenly an aura pops up around Kami. A beam of light that is incredibly bright as well as incredibly intense. And then suddenly, Kami's skin turns a different shade. His power increases rapidly. Little did Goku know he wasn't the only person here with a transformation. Kami, through gaining not only eternal youth, but also a lifetime of wisdom from having his brain reset to how it was when he was but a young lad, ever eager to learn, he has now gained a new ability, the ability to unlock his own potential. He can't do it for others as that's a step too far, but for himself, he's been able to, and he did, which not only made training more effective, but also meant he had this power, the awakened state, something that Goku is incredibly impressed by and wants to test out for himself. So he powers up into Kaioken times 3 as a more easily accessible transformation, as well as removing his weights, which he would have put back on after the Tien fight. He's going to get any training he can in at any times, but Kami tells him to pump it up to the Akari form. He noticed Goku used it against Tien and he wants to see it now. He doesn't want Goku to underestimate him. So, he does. He removes Kaioken and then ups it to the Akari form, but Kami warns him he's going to want to reactivate Kaioken. This is shocking. Goku didn't know that Kami had this kind of bravado, but once the fight unfolds, it turns out to not be bravado, but rather actual confidence in his own abilities, which he was right to have, as he is able to keep up with Goku's incredible power. The training he has, as well as this new form, allows him to actually stay in the running with his students. It's incredible, and he never expected that he would be able to gain such power. Then, after the fight concludes, Kami ends up on the bottom foot only because he wasn't used to having this much power, whereas Goku has always kind of had a lead over whoever he fought. So he was able to confidently beat Kami, although did congratulate him on putting up such an excellent fight. Goku isn't cocky and he isn't unaware of the fact that people are stronger than him. He just knows whoever he fights, he's going to be able to overcome one way or another. And this was just that. Although it does bore him a little because he hasn't really had somebody to put him in his place, to show him that he isn't the strongest, even though he knows he isn't. It's an interesting conundrum that will be solved with the arrival of the Saiyan Raditz. And yes, I do mean during the 23rd World Tournament. After it ends, a space pod comes crashing down on the planet, and an evil and intense feeling can be felt throughout the entire planet. It's the Saiyan brother of Kakarot, Raditz. And that's where we're going to be ending things for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this, as I certainly enjoyed making it, and if you could please, like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit the notification bell, that way you're updated whenever I upload any videos. That would be very much appreciated. Now, without further ado, this is, always has been, and always will be the Irishman. Talk to you later. Bye.